So today, myself, Jason Marsdale, InSource account executive based here in the King of Prussia area, Pennsylvania. We've been an elite partner for ServiceNow for just over 10 years and specialize in implementation, ongoing support services, staff augmentation, as well as staffing and a variety of other advisory and things that we can dive into at a separate time. I got together with an old professor of mine from Rutgers University who stayed in touch over the years, and his name's David Cheatham. He's here with us today. David Cheatham is a principal consultant and founder of Transform Communications LLC, a management consultancy specializing in HR communications and change management. David partners with business leaders to improve change outcomes across the enterprise, M&A, product introductions, branding, technology deployment, process, leadership, and change, culture change. He delivers business results for diverse organizations and a range of organizations, including pharmaceuticals, IT, healthcare, and higher education. David is a PROSI certified. Am I getting that right, David? PROSI certified change practitioner who also served on the faculty of Rutgers University School of Business, where he teaches business administration, management, marketing, and human resources management. And during the time I had David, it was business communication. So hopefully this will be a well-read and well said meeting we'll have here. So just want to turn to you, David, and if you have anything else you want to add, but I'd like to try to tackle some of the questions that we talked about. Why is organizational change exhausting, and why is personal change energizing?
Exactly. Well, Jason, it's great here to be with you. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I think it's a truism or an axiom that people say they don't like change. You know, we hear that all the time, and it can be in small things and large things, not just an organizational change. But if we really think about it, the two questions you just posed are ones that I pose when I start my Rutgers University course in change management, and that is, why is organizational change exhausting, but why is personal change energizing? And I think about how many New Year's Eve resolutions there are. I think about how many people who are excited about a new workout regimen, or getting a new position, a new opportunity, or moving into a new house, getting a new car. So really, we love change. And particularly folks in North America love change. And I would also say that almost every business on Earth's business is change, because we are selling new products and services and trying to make them better. And that's all change. So I would start with the proposition that what we really are saying is that we want change, but we don't want to be changed. We don't want to be changed. We don't want other people to tell us that we have to change something that we're comfortable doing. Now, that's intuitive. That doesn't take a lot of research to discover that. But for some strange reason, when leaders in an organization come together and they make changes, and often significant changes, in how people work, where people work, who they report to, changing the customer base, et cetera, that reasoning flies out the window, and we get instead this notion that that the business decision is made and done, and it's really just a question of communicating it, quote unquote. In other words, we've done the research, we want to make this change in the organization, so our goal as leaders is to simply communicate it, and if we give people detailed enough instructions, it'll all work. But we already know from what we just said that people are resisting change that is imposed on them. And so what we're going to talk through in a couple of minutes here is how to increase two of the key drivers of change management and improve them. And that is, number one, communicating, and number two, engaging those stakeholders.
But there's been so many times I've been in organizations where we're rolling out new software, and this goes even before ServiceNow. So just taking, I think, is just a global look at all software that's coming into an organization, where the initial thing is like, wait a second, wait, I'm not ready for that. But you know, when we start looking at benefits of what that can bring in, that's where, you know, folks can be a little more motivated. But really would love to kind of get a better understanding as to what sits in the background of this topic for you that helps lead that rollout of change, because that's a new perspective that I haven't thought about when you start mentioning in North America, especially, and people are, hey, I'm up for, making a New Year's resolution, or I'm looking at, getting a new workout regimen, whatever that might be. People are, hey, I'm ready for that. Getting a new car, I'm excited for that. So, and that could be intimidating with all the different things now all being on one screen as opposed to all the buttons and dials that we used to have
That's
20
right.
years ago.
But I'm motivated.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
So
motivated.
yeah, love to hear more about the topic, because this definitely is exciting for me, at least, to talk about.
Well, I appreciate that. And just a quick sidebar, which again I won't go into on this, but maybe down the road. I call it the Lamborghini principle. I have tried to trademark that. It's called the Lamborghini, or the Lamborghini paradox. The Lamborghini paradox is that if you go to your significant other and you sell their vehicle, which they've been complaining about, and you buy them a Lamborghini and park it in the driveway for their birthday, and they wake up and it's sitting in the driveway with a big bow on it, you might think that significant other would be thrilled because you just bought them a very expensive top flight vehicle, and it's all bought and paid for, and it's sitting in the driveway. But you know what? Most people would say, what? You got rid of my old car and you replaced it, and you didn't really ask me about it, and you'll say, oh, but it's so much better, and you didn't like the old one, and it was 10 years old, and rah, rah, rah. And the person said, and you see where I'm going with that. So even things that we come to as leaders and say, well, this on surface, prima facie, as we say, on the surface, it has to be better. It's the latest and greatest. And of course, you're going to like it. In fact, you're going to love it because it is the latest and greatest. So how could you possibly resist this effort? But again, even in that extreme example, and there are people, when I do this on a workshop, who will say, some of them will say, well, yeah, you want to give me a Lamborghini, that's fine. But I'm also going to say, well, you know what? This came out of the household budget. So you help me pay. Anyway, but you see where I'm getting at. So even something that's as extreme as that is a paradox of human nature that we don't have. Anyway, so what I would do then, let me jump back into the script. So I would define change management, and I'll make it very brief. Change management helps manage the transformation of an organization's goals, processes, and particularly for our discussion, technologies, by focusing on preparing, supporting, and helping employees to undertake the change. And a quick distinction I make is project management is concerned with changing and managing things. Change management is concerned with changing behavior of people, not processes and objects, but getting the behavior change, which will make the change stick. So Transform Communications surveyed HR leaders a couple of weeks ago and discovered that 42% of these HR practitioners say that their primary role in change management is to drive the change, is to help those that change sponsor, the change champions, but actually drive it, not simply support the change, 42%. And only 30% said that the change initiative that they were driving or a part of in some way actually was successful. So you'll often see this, Jason, quoted, and it is backed up by research, that basically 70% of all large-scale change initiatives fail to produce the desired outcomes. And this is borne out by our survey from Transform Communications. And that brings up, again, the two key drivers of successful change: communications and stakeholder engagement. First, I want to dispel some change messaging myths, since we're talking about communication. One is that employees won't understand the reasons for the change. They haven't done all the research because they're doing their day jobs. So they won't really understand the reason for the change. And if they're not, then we don't really have to explain it. We simply, again, give them instructions, and then they execute the instructions. But that is a myth. A second myth is that being honest is just too risky. It's too risky. And particularly when we're talking about changing roles and responsibilities, and of course, the classic of all examples, layoffs. The classic example that all of us have to work better on is layoffs. And how many times have we seen layoffs by video, layoffs through email, layoffs now through text? this idea that if I'm too honest with my employees, and if I telegraph the change that's coming, and I involve them in the change before it happens, that I'm going to risk, well, gosh, who knows what? The good people are going to jump ship. The shareholders won't be happy. Wall Street, even though Wall Street loves layoffs, Wall Street won't be happy with me. I'm going to lose control. And that's the key as a leader, is to keep control of the organization. That is a myth. Related to that is information is power, and I'm not giving it away. Or you could call it knowledge is power. And I've heard a lot of people say in a positive way, because they believe it. They say knowledge is power, and they like that. Well, it is, except that the more you give it away, the more influential you become in an organization. That is a paradox that's been proven. Giving away information increases your credibility, increases your influence, not the opposite. Hoarding the information, keeping it from people, that undermines your influence and your credibility. And then another last on a myth, if we don't say anything about the change until we actually announce it, then we're going to minimize the social media chatter and all the talk online. And of course, that's the opposite. If you bring a change in without any context, without any involvement of the key stakeholders, then you're going to set up this terrible backlash on social media, and then that will be much more negative than it would have been if you had kept people involved along the way. But so those are some myths, and I want to dispel those. And I know that your software platform can help us address those myths.
We could get into a lot with that. Maybe some good examples without naming names of organizations where you've seen a great effort to debunk these myths. Like, hey, we actually, I consulted with the firm and they did ABC to educate their stakeholders, their employees, and let them know the reason, like you said, the reason behind. They don't necessarily know the reason behind. They're just being presented, hey, this is where we're going. But what went into that? I think and this goes for even organizations I've personally been involved with, when we can hear what the challenges have been on their day-to-day, and we can talk through the fact that we've heard them and we've received that feedback and we've looked for a solution to address that, and in addition to address it, propel them to the next level of efficiency, and not to make it to where it's efficient to where we're thinking job loss, job cut, but more efficient that we can now say, let's take those more complex initiatives that you're working on and give you the ability to focus more on that, rather than push you into all these time sucks and take away from the enjoyment of the day. Because I feel like most times, even though people might feel otherwise on the surface, when you're more engaged in your work, you get more out of it. It's more fulfilling. Your day goes by faster. When you get caught up in all this minutia and back and forth stuff where you're like, man, I just lost an hour on this, and there's frustration with it. So some people might think, hey, I don't want to do more critical thinking. I don't want to have more, complex stuff on my plate, but I think they get more out of their day. It's more fulfilling. They've got more purpose, and they're making more purpose-driven decisions rather than just, swiping the keyboard.
Exactly, and that just brings us back to the top of the conversation. This idea that this personal change, the change that you want to make happen, can it be difficult? Can it take a long time? Can it be expensive? Sure, but you have that personal fulfillment. And so my goal as a change practitioner is to, am I gonna ever probably reach that level with you in an organization? Probably not, unless you are potentially one of the founders and you've got the huge stock situation. But I can get a lot closer to it and bring in that fulfillment than I can if I simply send you an email that says Monday morning we're going to put ServiceNow on your laptop, and so when you log on, there are going to be 10 things to do. Well,
Yep.
That's.
So if you like what you heard, I hope you tune into some future episodes that David and I will get into a little more detail and other questions. I just want to give another big shout out and thank you to David for his time, and look forward to having more content put out there in the future.